We are going to come to a close on John 17 next week. Next week. And it's not good timing at all. It kind of slipped up on me as things do sometimes, but we won't be here next Sunday. Brother Larry is going to finish us out. And before I forget it, Larry, I want to call to your attention page 504. I know you have your commentary, you always do, but page 504, be sure to mention those lessons, if you will. That might take up most of your class. You see them at the bottom of page 504? See chapter 17? Okay. Several lessons there. And you know how at the end of each chapter I have some lessons? And so I just want to call that to your attention. People, I think, forget about those lessons since I show them on the slides. So here's what we're going to do. Starting in the fall, we're going to do 18, 19, 20, and 21. This may be the longest study of a book here. I don't know what your history is, but there's 879 verses, and I've tried to do justice to each one of those verses. And I hope that I've brought out some things that perhaps you've not thought of before. I'm not too crazy about just, sometimes I've been in classes where they'll read 10 verses and say, anybody got a comment? And then they read 10 more verses. And that's just really not my style. To me, that's not digging into the Word. And so I appreciate your patience in this study. I can't remember exactly when we started. Sister Jill is here, and Jill has been so encouraging to me today. Jill, would it embarrass you too much to hold up your book?
Which one?
Hold that up. Look at that.
It's worn out.
She has worn that book out. That is so encouraging. Show me a Bible that's marked up and pages are about to fall out and so forth. So thank you, Jill. But Jill said, how'd you say that, Jill? We've been studying this 2 years. Yeah. That's not exactly accurate. But anyway, I know we had 2 quarters, and then I know we had the existence of God for 1 quarter. And then another quarter, I'm going to do Inspiration of the Bible. That'll be this fall in the Wednesday night auditorium class. And then we'll finish up John, down here in the fall. And I'm going to ask Brother Kyle, I would like to do a study of something that's a little bit more practical, though it's got, quite a bit of textual and doctrinal considerations too. But do you know if a study has been done of 1 Corinthians in recent times? It has, Larry?
Barry Kennedy did one several years ago.
Well, that's not recent times.
It's recent for us.
And, well, he wouldn't have done it the way I do it. But I want to ask Kyle if I could do that. And another study I'd like to do with you sometime is the book of Hebrews. One of my all-time favorite books. Not easily read through. It takes a little bit of time. Hebrews and Romans, very much the meat of the Word. But anyway, so that's sort of the plan that we're shooting for. But thank you again for your patience. Appreciate it very much. Okay, I don't have my computer today because I only have one slide plus the lessons, and the lessons are next week. But on page 235, well, you don't have your commentaries. Most of you don't. But this chapter divides into 3 main parts. It's a prayer, and it's an intercessory prayer. Jesus is the intercessor, okay? And he, first of all, prays, for himself, for his glorification. And then the second part is that's what we're going to be looking at primarily today, is his prayer for his immediate disciples. And then the third part is his prayer for us. Isn't that exciting? And that's more practical, the third part, of the prayer. I find John 17 a little bit difficult as I dug into it. It has some challenging things if you're going to really dig into it. But at any rate, let's look at 17, I think beginning about verse number 6. I don't know that we got, at least I have prepared for 6 through 11 today. And then we can go farther if we need to. But the latter part is much more practical. And I think Brother Larry will enjoy, going over that with you. And I appreciate your indulgence, with me. Okay, so let's read 17, 6 through 11a. This is his prayer for his immediate disciples. Would somebody enjoy reading that with a loud and resounding voice? Who would like to do that? Jerry, did you say so?
Sure, I'll do that.
Okay, read clearly where everybody hears.
11.
11, yeah.
I have manifested your name to the men whom you have given me out of the world. They were yours. You gave them to me, and they have kept your word. Now they have known that all things which you have given me are from you. For I have given to them the words which you have given me, and they have received them, and have known surely that I came forth from you, and that they have believed that you sent me. I pray for them. I do not pray for the world, but for those whom you have given me, for they are yours. And all mine are yours, and yours are mine, and I am glorified in them. Now I am no longer in the world, but these are in the world, and I come to you, Holy Father. Keep through your name those whom you have given me, that they may be one as we are.
Okay, thank you, Jerry. All right, let me point out something to you if your eyes are still at verse 11. Actually, I think I told you this. There's a man by the name of Langton in the 1200s who gave us chapter divisions. The Holy Scriptures did not come down like this. I've mentioned that more than once, I'm sure. But then in the 1500s, a fellow by the name of Stephanus divided our Scriptures up into verses. And in my opinion, and the opinion of others, he dropped the ball on verse number 11. Because Holy Father, you see that sentence beginning with Holy Father in verse 11, that actually begins the last section of this prayer. So a good verse division would be, there. And you'll see that throughout the Scriptures if you dig into them. For example, real quick, I'll just point out one other that popped in my head. In 1 Timothy, well, I don't see it right off. But at any rate, they're talking about different classes of people. The men, the women, the slaves, and so forth. And then there's a chapter division right in the middle of it. I can't recall exactly where it is right now. Okay, let's look at this. Now, up to this point, Jesus has been praying for himself, right? And he's been praying that he would be glorified. And glorification refers to what? What's the immediate thing coming up? His death, okay? And now he turns his attention to the disciples. And before making his request specifically for them, which takes place at the latter part of verse 11, so I call it 11b, through verse 19, he gave several reasons for his petitions and why the Father should honor his request. Actually, I think I maybe misspoke. 11b does not begin the last part of his prayer. 11b begins the second part of the prayer for the immediate disciples. My apology. But the last part of the prayer begins in verse number 20. So, Brother Larry, I'm hoping that I can get as close to verse 20 as I can. Okay, and then so you'll have those verses plus the lessons 20 to 26. Okay, so the first thing that he does is give some reasons for his prayer. Do I have my additional markers here? And I do not. They went the way of things in briefcases.
David, there's some on the desk right there.
Oh, are they? Okay. Thank you, Brother Elon. I don't push all my books off. Okay, and I'm blind as well. Yep, and I did the very thing that I didn't want to do. Not a problem. Of course, the next challenge is picking this book up. Okay. All right. So he gives, oh boy, anybody want a commentary on sale here? Thank you. Boy, don't you hate to do that? That's hard on a book. Okay. I found this one. Thank you. Okay, so he gives some reasons for his prayer, and I've tried to outline these, so let's look at them. First of all, he made petition for his disciples because it was to them that he had manifested the Father's name. All right? Let's see. I have manifested your name to the men whom you have given me. So he manifested to them the Father's name. What does that mean? He manifested to them the Father's name. Did he say, hey, by the way, disciples, my Father's name is X? It's got to be more than that, hasn't it? What do you think, John? Or Tracy?
Your name kind of goes with your identity. You mean kind of let him know more fully who
Right.
the Father is.
The name embodies his character. It embodies his nature. It embodies, everything about God. And so he has revealed this. The word manifest means to reveal, to explain, to divulge. And he's done that to the disciples. Number two, he prays for them because they were the Father's, and he gave them to Jesus. Notice this. I've manifested your name to the men whom you have given me out of the world. They were yours, you gave them to me, and they have kept your word. Now, we've talked a good bit about, the Father giving disciples in John chapter 6. I know that's a long way back, but in 6, maybe we should read it since some of you may have forgotten it, but maybe not. Do you remember the verses? It's 36 and 37. I said to you that you have seen me, and yet you have not believed. All that the Father gives me will come to me, and the one who comes to me I will by no means cast out. So, who are the ones that the Father gives to Jesus? He gives those to Jesus who come to Jesus. Isn't that what it says? And that the Father gives me will come to me, and the one who comes to me I will by no means cast out. And then in 44, no man can come to me unless the Father who sent me draws him, and I'll raise him up in the last day. It is written in the prophets, they shall all be taught of God. Everyone therefore who has heard and learned of me, comes to me. Okay, and I'll raise him up in the last day. So you're going to find in the denominational world that they'll use this verse, John 6, 36, 37, and other places to teach the well-known doctrine of John Calvin, namely, predestination, and the once saved, always saved goes on the end of that verse where it says, and I will by no means cast them out. But anyway, okay, do you have a comment on that?
Dr. White.
Yeah. David. I've told you, David. Okay.
I find it interesting that this is the only place where the phrase Holy Father is used, at least in the New King James
Yeah.
Version. And the fact that he must be emphasizing to the disciples that something big is about to happen.
Yeah. Father is used in 17:5. Holy Father is in verse 11. Righteous Father is in verse 25.
Right.
So that's a pretty big thing.
Yeah.
And this is, did you see it? I think that's the only time it occurs.
Yeah.
In this Holy Father occurs. What is that? Does that have a ring to you? Most of us have a middle name. I can't help but think I like my middle name when I read this. Like, I'm David. My middle name is Lee. And if I ever heard David Lee, You know what that meant? It was something significant, right? And I'm wondering if the same thing could be said. You know, Jesus says, "My Father, our Father who art in heaven, my Father," etc. But now it's Holy Father. So, like you say, it's something really distinctive, I think. Thank you, Victor, for pointing that out. Okay, now, the Father gave the disciples to Jesus out of the world. Out of the world. Got any thoughts on that? He said He gave them out of the world. To me, that recalls His recruitment, of men to follow Him. And we're going to talk more about that in this section. We're in the world, but what? We're not of the world. And we cannot escape the world. You remember in 1 Corinthians 5, Paul, when he told the church to not keep company with sexually immoral people, he said, I'm not talking altogether about people of the world. He said, else you'd have to do what? You'd have to leave the world, right? But he was talking about, not keeping company, with that immoral, person that was in the church. Okay, Victor?
I think when I read this, I really get the sense that he understands the vulnerability that his disciples are going to be under.
Yeah.
And he is doing everything he can to protect them in a way.
That's right. And as frequently takes place, you got ahead of me. No, that's okay. No, I'm glad. I appreciate you thinking. But see, Jesus has been, you need to get the picture. All of you got the picture. They are in, where are they at this time? We don't know for sure. Maybe around the temple, area, something like that. And so can't you see the disciples just sort of close up to Him, listening to His words? And so here He's been with them, some 3 years, and He's been able to give them protection and so forth. But now He's very concerned. Leaving the world, He wants He's praying to the Father that they'll still be taken care of. And why is that? Why does He want them taken care of? Not only because He loves them, but something else, a practical thing.
It can be hard.
They needed it. And they're going to be doing something, aren't they, Doug? They're going to be, like Peter and John, heal the lame man. They're going to get in trouble, over that. Acts 4. They're going to be told by the rulers, don't ever talk about Jesus anymore, and so forth and so on. So they're really going to need some help. Just like we pray for each other. You go on a traveling trip or whatever, we pray to the Father, to guide you, to protect you, to ensure safe travels, and so forth. So that's kind of the picture I get. Okay, number 3, He prays for the disciples because they had kept the word of the Father. They were yours, you have gave them to me, and they've kept your word. Okay, now the word here is, let me try this one, Brother Leon. The word. Is
that a Sharpie or?
Yeah, it's a Sharpie. Oh, that's a bad thing, isn't it?
Permanent, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
sorry about that.
What you intend to leave there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's see. The word is this word right here, logos. Okay, and I point that out because notice in verse number 7, now they have known all things from you and have given me are from you. Verse 8, for I have given to them the words which you have given me. Now, see, this wouldn't be a big deal to probably anybody, but me. But see, word in verse 6 is singular. Words in verse 8 are plural. There's something big about that. The word words is a different word than this. So the big word here, logos, refers to the sum revelation, of God the Father that has been revealed, in Jesus Christ. And so that's different than what's going on in verse number 8. Was it 8? No, verse 8, where he says, I have given them to them the words which you have given me. So the words refer to the Lord's like immediate teachings, that he's been given to the disciples, from time to time, throughout his ministry. But the word, that's a big thing to me. It is God's revelation in its entirety, in it as a whole. Okay, number 4. Jesus prayed for the disciples because they had come to know everything the Father had given Jesus had come from the Father. And that's verse number 7 and 8. They have known that all things which you have given me are from you, for I have given to them the words. Okay, I got a little ahead of myself there. But they have known that all things which you have given me are from you. Okay, now I thought that the disciples were to a great extent sort of in the dark, still. Haven't we been saying that? That their understanding was rather, incomplete, still all the way up to the ascension. So what does he mean when he says that they've come to know everything the Father had given to Jesus? Well, the word know can be used in different senses. I think the know here is know by experience. For example, in John 13, 34 and 35, Jesus said, a new commandment give I unto you, that you do what? You remember? Love one another. Remember that? Yeah, but love one another has been around for a long time, hasn't it? Of course it has. So how in John 13, 34 was it new? What, Larry? Yeah, as I have loved you. See, it's based on experience. And so I think this is, similar, to this. See, I don't think they may not have fully understood, why the Messiah was going to die, but they'd come to believe that Jesus was the messenger, sent from the Father. And so they knew that. All right, Doug?
Can I back up to verse 7?
You may.
Verse 6.
Sure.
Where he talks about they have kept the word.
Uh-huh.
How do you reconcile that with Judas? Because he mentions Judas here in a few verses. I'm just curious.
Right. Excuse me. I don't think kept the word here means perfect obedience in every respect. But I think, at least as I recall what I mentioned, in my book here, is that they had come to the point of committing themselves to Jesus. And they still had flaws. They were still messing up. I mean, look at Peter. Of course, that's coming, right? Is there any incident? Well, look at even James and John. I'm sorry. What do you need? Oh, I thought I gave you the roll. I thought I was losing my mind for a minute. Well, I am losing my mind. Thank you, Beth. How sweet. Shall I put the rest of these in here or on the board, you think?
Put it in.
Okay, I'm thinking so too. And we need to cast this into outer darkness, don't we? Okay. All right. Now let's see. I was on a roll about something. I forgot what it was. Oh yeah. Even James and John, this is wrong. They were vying for position. They wanted to be on either side, of Jesus. So I'd look at that and I'd say, well, that doesn't sound like keeping the Lord's word, about, where the Lord would say, be humble and so forth and so on. So I think it has to be not perfect obedience at this point, Doug, but I do think it's clear they've committed themselves to Jesus.
And Judas.
Yeah, and Judas too, I think. And that's going to bring up an interesting point I'm trying to get to.
They still were thinking it was going to be an earthly kingdom at this point.
Right. And so that was a mistake, wasn't it? Okay. Number 5, verse 7. Now they have known all things from you, and you have given me all things. For I have given to them the words. I think we've already commented on that sufficiently, which you have given me. This goes all the way back to John chapter 5, where Jesus says, all that I have from the Father, and so forth. And I have known surely that I came forth from you, and that they believed and that you sent me. So Doug, I think verse 8 is kind of the answer there. You know, they've committed themselves to Jesus. They have come to the conclusion that, you know, He is from the Father. They have some understanding about His mission. They don't get it all together, but they're kind of on track, you know, to get it, I think. All right, let's see. Number 6. Here's another reason that he prayed for them. Because they truly understood that Jesus came forth from the Father. And we just commented on that. All right. Okay, verse 9. I pray for them that I pray for them. I do not pray for the world, but for those whom you have given me out of yours. I'm sorry. I can't even read. Whom you have given me, for they are yours. Where'd they get out of? Oh, it was out of the world, right? Okay. Now, what does it mean? I mean, I thought Jesus was concerned about the world. Right? I mean, after all, God gave His only begotten Son. Gave His Son to whom? The world. Right? So what does it mean when He says, I'm not praying for the world?
Could it mean on this occasion specifically?
Right. That's it, I think. Presently, He's praying for the disciples. That's what He's praying for. His purpose right now is not to pray, you know, for the world. He's praying for them because they are going to be the instrument through which the world will be reached, you know, with the gospel. And so who's He praying for? The context is He's praying for the apostles, you know, right here. And He's sending them forth. You know, we all talk about the commission, and we usually think of Matthew, Mark, you know, Luke, or John, don't we? But, you know, John has commissions. I mean, this is a commission right here, you know, for the disciples. But listen to this. In John 20 and 21, as the Father sent me, I send you. That sounds awfully close to Matthew 28. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them, teaching them to observe all things. And there's a commission in 2 Timothy 2:2. The things you've heard of me among many witnesses, what? The same commit to faithful men who shall be able to teach others also. Of course, you know I'm partial to John, but it bothers me a little bit when I hear people say Matthew, Mark, and Luke are the only Gospels that have the Great Commission. And I just don't see it that way. Maybe I would be more comforted if they would say the only 3 Gospels that have it explicitly, maybe. But it's pretty clear, you know, here. If Jesus were praying for the world, what would He be praying for? He couldn't be praying for the world to continue in their worldliness. So He's praying for the apostles right here. Okay?
David, do they really understand who Christ is? In John 14:7, He said, you've seen me, you've seen the Father.
Yeah.
When does that really dawn on them?
Well, I think, Brother Elon, it has to be, we have to understand that they just don't get it all right now. It's a gradual, you know, faith development. And I liken it to John 4 with the Samaritan woman. You remember she started talking to him as sir. And she said, I perceive you're a prophet. And then she acknowledged Jesus as the Christ. And then she went to the Samaritan city and told them about Jesus. Faith development. And then the same thing about the blind man in John 9. You remember he said, first of all, that he was a man, and then he said he was a prophet. They said it was 4 things. then someone from God, and then he said, acknowledge Jesus was the Christ. So I see the same thing with the apostles. I mean, they are gradually coming to better and better, understanding, but they don't fully get it until Pentecost, when they receive the baptism of the Holy Spirit. And you remember we've already talked about that in 14, 15, and 16, that one of the purposes of the Holy Spirit was to reveal to them, things that they would preach, and to help them remember, and I think understand, what Jesus had been telling them. So I don't think they fully get it here, but I think they're on the way. What do you think?
I agree.
That's the best that I can do with it, because it's evident to me that they're still in the dark about a lot of things. I think it's pretty clear when Philip says, he says, show us the Father. At that point, they don't fully get it. And they're still not fully getting it here. But in John 14, Jesus says, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. He's trying to communicate to them, the words that I speak are the words the Father gave me. The deeds that I do are the deeds that the Father, gave me. And when you've seen those words and you've seen those deeds, and then going back to John 1:18, where the Bible says Jesus is in the bosom, of the Father, and he reveals him or explains him. I think Jonathan told us last week, it said explained. Maybe not. Was that another translation? I don't remember. But it means to reveal. And so every chapter, I think, is a little bit more revelation in their minds. And then the kingdom revelation, obviously does not take place until Acts 2. They don't get it. They don't get it in Acts 1. Will you restore unto us the kingdom? That's Acts 1:6. So I don't think they got the idea of the kingdom until Acts 2. Anybody else want to comment on that? Yeah.
I think going back to the specificness of this prayer, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but Jesus is about to ask for specific things. He's about to ask, because I'm about to send them into the world, I want you to protect them and for us to be one, for them to be one with me and
Right.
one with you. He wouldn't pray that for the world, because he's not sending the world to do anything. He's sending these specific men.
Right. The only way the world is under consideration here, as we'll see it come up, it seemed like in another verse, is that he's commissioning the disciples to go into this world and to tell his story. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, let's see. Let's say something in verse 11 real quick. I'm no longer in the world. Now wait a minute. I thought Jesus was still in the world. He hasn't been crucified.
Maybe it means that there's nothing else that the world can do to him. His mission has been accomplished, and all that's left, is for him to ascend.
Mm-hmm. Okay. He's about ready to leave, isn't he, Jenny? His departure is soon. Don't forget, what time of night is this? I already gave you a clue. It's nighttime. This is probably close to midnight. Okay? See, the supper would have began, Larry, you're the expert on this. When?
In the evening.
Right. Specifically?
At 6 in the evening.
Dusk. Okay. Okay. And so we're probably approaching midnight, somewhere, in there. Might be, I don't know. No, none of us know the exact time. There's no student of Scripture that knows the exact time. But we do know that the Sanhedrin was called in the morning. And that would have been, say, around, and see, that would have been like 6 o'clock. And see, this is going to be a big thing that I want us to go into and spend some time on, because see, John says that he was crucified the 6th hour. Okay, what's the 6th hour? That's midday. That's 12 o'clock. But Mark says the third hour. And then, Brother Elon, you had a class where you talked about this. Was it this class or Romans? Somewhere you talked about some alleged discrepancies. You know, you cited that guy. Was that you or was that Mickey? Who stood up here that I heard that talked about some alleged discrepancies? Was that you?
I think so.
I thought you did. Yeah, I know it was. But anyway, so see, that's what the skeptic does. They says, well, Mark says the third hour, John says the sixth hour, so we're bound to have a, contradiction. I was like, I don't know, I can't think of the passage right now, but there's an Old Testament passage that says a man began to reign when he was 8, and a parallel passage says he began to reign when he was 18. The skeptic said, okay, there you go, another contradiction. But God gave us some brains, and if we can give a logical explanation, to why there might be some difference. And so the 8 and 18, and I don't know Hebrew, we'd have to ask Carol about it, but they tell me the only difference between the number 8 and the number 18 is something like the capital letter O and the capital letter Q, like a little mark. And we don't have, the originals. We have thousands upon thousands of copies, that men have gone to try to arrive at the text. They call it textual criticism.
David, I did use the discrepancies, but I don't think I used that in Mark. I don't believe I talked about that here in this class.
No, I don't think you used Mark. I was saying like what you were talking about on some other discrepancies. Yeah, Mark is a similar one. And I really do. I probably spent a week on that one question. So hopefully I won't bore you to death. I mean, I could just say, here's the answer, but we don't want to do that, do we? Okay, now let's see. His departure is so imminent that he can speak of the fact that he's not in the world. I think we have to say something like that. Because obviously he's still alive, right? I mean, he couldn't be speaking, to his disciples if he were not alive. So, I'm no longer in the world, but these are in the world, and I come to you. Who's he talking to? He's talking to the Father. Okay, now, I'm going to skip down to 11b, Holy Father. Okay, this has to do with not reasons now, but specific request. Specific request. Now he's going to do some things specifically, for these. Could we read 11b? How much time we got? Oh, good night. Where's the time go? Okay, we don't have time to read it all. Holy Father, keep them through your name, those whom you have given me, that they may be one as we are. Now, we've seen this before, and then we'll see it later. For example, we see it in 20 and 21, that they may be one in us, verse 21, okay? So Jesus is really concerned that the disciples be one as we are. Now, real quick, Brother Larry, I guess you'll have to start right there. But real quick, what does it mean? How are the Father and the Son one? Real quick. They're one in love. They're one in what? They're one in purpose. They're one in aim. They're one in work. They're unified. As in our vernacular, we'd say they're on the same page. And so, what does Jesus want about these apostles? He wants them to be, thinking alike. He didn't want arguing and stuff. We've already talked about that. All right, love you guys. Thank you very much for your patience.